What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of In the Wild. I'm Rayshawn, your host, and today we're talking about a really cool topic. Etiquette, professionalism is something that on a college campus is often discussed, but I feel like sometimes people don't understand the full spectrum of what it means, especially when it comes to looking for a job. So today we have two very special guests. First is Ingrid Tutt. She is a coordinator for special events in the Office of Protocol and Special Events. And we have Julie Goley, who is the Director for Career Services, to come back to talk to us a little bit about those things, because I was scrolling through the social medias, I think it was TikTok, and I saw that there was this one report where younger people like Gen Z were bringing their parents with them to job interviews, and they were talking about just the research of like things that they were doing to not get them hired off the bat. And that was one of the things that people said, like, they're coming to the job interviews unprepared, but also some of them are bringing their parents with them, which was shocking. So we're going to talk to Ingrid and Julie a little bit about just things that you can do and be mindful of as you try to network and just present yourself in the most professional way on and off campus. So I hope you're ready, because here we go. And I want to start with just first impressions. Like, what are some ways students can just off the bat just make a strong first impression with someone who may be their employer, coworker, business partner?
So, one of the things that I always tell students when they're going for a job, or anyone, is Google yourself and find out what comes up. Find out what your prospective employer is going to know before you get there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just remember that the internet does not die. So Snapchatting things and posting things on Twitter, or X, those things don't go away. So in order to create the best first impression, make sure that your digital fingerprints are clean.
That makes sense.
Meaning they would have scoped you out ahead of time,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And to tag to that, in person, a good eye contact, a good handshake, smile, just a bright demeanor. I don't necessarily need someone who's ultra formal, but they need to have this polite, joyful sense of confidence. And I think that that's important. And how you treat the person that you interact with to get to the person you think you're getting to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I often build first impressions of our students, because my office is adjacent to the lobby and my door's open, and I'll hear how they come in and how they work with our student assistant or our administrative assistant. So all those little things matter.
They do, and they all add up to the bigger picture for sure. Also, when you're making the first impression, a lot of people think about what's on the outside of you. And I'll say to people, it doesn't have to be cutting edge, Gordon Gartrell, collar pop kind of thing, but it does need to be clean and pressed. Young men, polish your shoes. Young women, leave your party shoes at home and put on sensible shoes, because all of that tells a story. At least, the first one is it, Julie? 7 seconds, we've already formed an opinion of who we think you are based on what we see on the outside. So just make sure that what you're putting out there is what you want people to know.
And for those who may say, like, hey, my circumstances don't really allow me to look as nice as I'd like to look for this job interview or for this event that I'm going to go to, like, do you have any other tips to just how they can make the best of their situation?
I do. You want to go ahead? I mean,
You jump in.
it starts really closest to where you are. If you are a member of a church, most churches have clothing banks. If you are a thrifter, and most young people are, at least we were when I was in college, we thrifted. So I could find unique pieces that I wanted that didn't break the bank. Also, if you cannot afford new, again, it's clean, your buttons are sewn on, it's been pressed, you're tucked, you're coiffed. I mean,
Right.
you don't have to spend a ton of money in order to look the way that you want to look, or find one of us and let us know what you're trying to do. People are always giving, I'll use my mom as an example. She works at Mount Calvary Baptist Church. People are giving her bags of things
Oh, wow.
from multiple ages. She takes them, she organizes them, and gives them away. There's no charge for those things. So there are resources, and if there's a student on this campus that needs that, they can certainly come and see me. I have an updated resource guide. Angela Bakos is someone in the city that can provide that resource for them if that's what they need through us.
Yeah. And every fall and spring, we do a partnership with JCPenney, and it's called our Suit Up event. So, and that gives between the 30% off coupon on top of the savings that they've already got, you're running about 60% off. So
Oh, wow.
it's a way to build your wardrobe over time. And so, and in the years we've been working with them, they have expanded, knowing that not everybody has to necessarily be in a full professional attire for all interviews, right? So they do the workplace attire and more of the casual and workplace casual, as well as the formal interview attire. So it's a great way to do that. And then we'll have incentives in career services to do, $25 gift cards, to help with that. So it's a great way to build your wardrobe in addition to some of the other ways, and then students now rent things, right?
Yeah.
Rent clothes.
You can't.
Which did not exist.
It did not,
It did
but
not
it
exist.
does now.
Yes.
So that's also an option, just, when you're in that job search mode or whatever the event is.
Okay, switching gears a little bit to you, Julie, about resumes, because obviously they are one of the most important things that you can have for securing a job interview as well as the job itself. What would be some of your just like pro tips that you usually find with students that may come into career service for the first time and like, oh, I never thought of that?
Right. I think one of I call them pet peeves with the resume, right? Obviously, aside from it needs to be grammatically correct and be consistent in the formatting. You don't want a picture on there. These days, you can have a link to your LinkedIn profile and things like that, and that can be a part of it, but the picture's not really a place for it unless you're in some sort of performance-based thing where you need to have that. The other thing is not using first person. So I'll see students just automatically writing like it's a paper, and they're using first person versus really focusing on action verbs. And it's not about perfect sentences. It's about perfect, quick, bulleted action verbs to show where you add value.
Yeah.
Because students will also take a job description or what they think they do and just put it in there. And I'm going, okay, I know what a cashier does. Tell me about what makes you an outstanding cashier, where you do a better job compared to someone else. And how is that reflected? Because the employer's looking for, what are you like in the job? How can you add value? And that's often the thing that students don't think about from the lens of the employer.
How do you feel about how they list or describe their skill set? Because a lot of times from resumes that I've seen, students may add a lot of soft skills.
Right.
But as someone that has like hired interns and has been a part of search committees, it's like, yeah, the soft skills on a resume aren't as impactful as like those more technical
skills.
like
Yes.
skills. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think always favor towards those harder skills to show what level of proficiency you have in Excel. And it's okay to say I have a basic or intermediate proficiency, but go ahead and state those things. A lot of people forget about, if they're working, for example, in retail, what point of sale systems have you used? Because they're varied ones. And so you have to think these days in a digital age, could someone be keyword searching to find it? Oh, okay, this person's already familiar with our software, already familiar with our payment software. So those hard skills are very important. If you have soft skills on there, it's okay, but I think it's better for more of a cover letter, or you are showing proof of that within the context of those job experiences, because it to me, it can kind of get to be filler words.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan of templates either. And there's lots of templates out there that are not good. And now with employers, and because of digitally getting your information with applicant tracking systems, there's very specific formats that need to be in place. And if you just Microsoft Word a template or download a template that you think looks really cool and different, but it has multiple columns and different images, that's not going to translate well to applicant tracking systems when you're clicking and submitting.
Right.
So there's a science behind the resume in a way that it never was before. It was a lot easier back in the day. You just wrote your objective and put your information in there and sent it in the mail. But now it's very different. And because of those systems and how they keyword search and how they sort the data before it even gets to the human eye, oftentimes, that's a very different process.
Absolutely. It definitely makes a difference. And I guess going out a little bit broader, just when it comes to professional etiquette, because those are skills that go well beyond just the workplace. Ingrid, what would you say are some just straight up do's and don'ts when it comes to networking or going to an event, whether it's a professional event or an event where you may be able to spot your future employer? What are some do's or don'ts?
One of them that I've been working with a group on is embracing the art of small talk. If you're in a room, set a goal for yourself. If you don't know anybody there, go up, introduce yourself to 3 or 4 people that are in the room that you don't know. You know, if your person that you're trying to get to is in that room, then find either someone that you're connected to, or if you're secure enough, you know, go and introduce yourself to them. But I like introduction, having help making introductions to those people is often helpful. I don't believe, but yeah, often helpful.
So for those, especially, I can include myself in this one because I'm sometimes very attached to my phone, even when I walk into a room. Like, how do I go about introducing myself to someone? If I'm an introvert, more reserved, don't know where to start, how to work a room, because there are some of those more extroverted people who can work a room and you see them, and I'm an introvert, and I'm like, I can't do that. There's no way I'll have enough energy to, bounce around from table to table or from group to group. So how can someone who hasn't done that before kind of start small and kind of work their way up to introduce?
Well, again, set the goal for yourself. If there are people that you don't know, I think that can help you to do that. And once you master that 2 or 3 that you're going after, it will become hopefully easier and easier and easier in the future. Or you have to be what I call myself sometimes is an extroverted introvert. I can do it as long as I have to do it, but every once in a while I need to go, step out of the room, take a deep breath, come back, and then.
And that's perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
And set those small goals. I think also when you go into a room and you don't know anybody, pay attention to the body language of the people around you.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if it's a large gathering and maybe I'm talking to Ingrid, if we are direct person to person, that's harder to kind of break into.
Right.
But if we are at an angle, that's telling you we're open. We don't know that that's what we're saying, but it tells you that, okay, so you have a way to enter in. And almost always you're going to find somebody who's more uncomfortable than you. So go to that person who's really struggling more than you as a wallflower, that's just like glued on the wall and warm up with that one, because if you can start a conversation with someone who just obviously doesn't want to be there and they're introverted and they're just not confident, you're helping them and you're helping yourself. So you can always have a warm-up person before you go in for the larger ones. But pay attention to the alignment of people when they're talking and use that as a way. And you can always find a common, if I'm watching and she's got a particular item on her plate, oh, I didn't get the meatball. I was thinking about that. How is that?
Absolutely.
Just something to
break the ice.
Break the ice. And same thing, make yourself go when you're at tabled events, dining events, make yourself go sit with people that you don't know.
Absolutely.
And find things, basic conversation starters. I remember I was at a business event one time, and I was with a couple of our faculty who will remain nameless.
Okay.
And some business people. And it was just a really silent table. And I'm going, this is just, I feel like a comedian that is not resonating with an audience, you know. So I would try these open-ended questions and wasn't getting anywhere. And so I said something about, I knew someone had been recently to a concert. And so I mentioned that. And then I said, what's the best concert you ever attended?
That was a great one.
And people just lit up. And so then I found out things about these faculty members of who they were like total fans of that I never knew. And I've never forgotten. So finding those common ways, whether it's a TV show you have in common or a love for a particular artist, you know, it doesn't have to be always that professional thing, you know.
What's that?
For me, when I often think of networking, especially in rooms where I don't know a lot of people or anyone, I always have to remind myself to actually introduce myself.
Yes.
Because I will sometimes just
Roll in.
Yeah, I'll roll in and I'll start, talking, or I'll have my game face of, I'm going to, meet this many people or whatever, kind of taking your advice, Ingrid. And then at the end of it, I'll be like, I don't think I even told them my name.
Oh.
And I don't even think I asked them their name. We had a great conversation, but I actually didn't literally introduce myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes me think of something too that we're often teaching students with our events when we have name tags. Remembering your name tag's on the right.
Right.
And so many students, I've never been told that. I didn't understand that. Well, here's the why, and it's the handshake, and that your eyes are following straight to that name tag. So that's very helpful, because if you're like me, sometimes if you're nervous, you don't even if you said my name's Rayshawn, I would be zoned out because I'm in my head, right? So that name tag, okay, I'm going to remember his name because I know he introduced himself, but I totally forgot.
Absolutely. But that's another, to piggyback on what you're saying, it's another reason why our name tags are up here and not here.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people do that. You've got your little spool that's your key to get in and out. But if you are at a networking event or a lanyard, right, you want that next to your face. That's why your picture is there. So people, one, know it's you, and then, as Julie said, can sear that into their memory.
Do y'all have any other, advice for, folks like me that's like, oh, I forgot to introduce myself, to help recover from making, common networking mistake? Because, like I said, I'll sometimes forget to introduce myself, or maybe spend too long talking about myself and not asking them enough questions, or what.
Right,
how do you kind of recover when you notice in your head, you're like, oh crap, I didn't do something right.
Right. I think it's just another thing for professionalism and first impressions is always have a curiosity about the other person, the other situation. And I think sometimes, and particularly in a job seeking mode, people are so focused on themselves and what's going to happen to them. And I'm like, you got to get over that. It's time for you to show your curiosity and show your capability. But asking questions, engaging. But it's also certainly fine if maybe you do a deep dive into a conversation that you just struck up and you never even introduced yourself, and you can say, well, Ingrid, I really enjoyed. Well, I can't say Ingrid
Because you don't know my name, yes.
I just realized I never got your name. I'm Julie Goley.
Absolutely. And I'm Ingrid Tutt. Yes.
I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
And you just the humility and just calling it like you see it in a polite way is totally appropriate. Sometimes
appreciate that honesty.
Yes. And I've got a code with my husband, so he's from this area, and I was not, so I just, I never knew who was who, and people would walk up, and it might be somebody he was in high school with, and he doesn't remember the name. I'm like, you've got to give me a code so I know to jump in.
Right.
So people in your quick circle, that's good, but also at the same time, you can, if you forget someone's name and someone else is coming up and you're like, gosh, I really should know but I'm totally blanking out on this person's name. Have y'all met before? Please introduce yourselves.
That is the best trick.
It is.
Use it all the time. All the time. Because if I have a conversation with you, I will never forget your face.
Right.
But the names sometimes escape me, even though my job is detailed, is to plan all of the details. Sometimes that name just eludes you, and you have to have a trick in order to do it. That's a brilliant thing.
It's just
It is a little thing to do.
I've never thought of that before. I just learned something new today.
Have y'all met before? Introduce yourself.
Because usually I'm pretty good with names, and sometimes when I'll be like quite there. Like I remember that. Like I know their name starts with the I. I can't remember the rest of it, or I remember their last name or their first name, but not both. So usually I'm pretty good with names, but now I know.
Right.
I know the trick to bring in a third party to introduce themselves.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And the trick, if you've got the names aligned and you're trying to figure out how do I introduce people, you acknowledge the senior person first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, for example, if Dr. Keene was in here and there was a student right here, I would say, Dr. Keene, I would like for you to meet so-and-so, the student, and exchange it that way.
Okay.
So that's another quick way to remember and go. And sometimes you might not know the seniority of the person, but then kind of go with what you assume to be the seniority. But the main thing is just being that gracious connector, right? To try and put people together.
And remembering that U2 is a band. We are introducing, it's the other way around. It's not U2. Allow me to introduce to you.
Right.
So if you keep that in your head, U2 is a band, not the way that you introduce
I love
someone,
that.
then you won't go wrong.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the tips. And for those watching, stay tuned. We got more with these guys when we come back.
Stay connected and organized with My Augusta, the official app for Augusta University faculty, staff, and students. Customize your dashboard to view courses, emails, files, events, and more with easy-to-use widgets. Access personalized tools that give you access to other systems and apps at Augusta University. Pin your favorite pages and tools for quick access. Find exactly what you need: pages, tools, events, people, files, and posts with a simple search. Filter results to save time. Receive tailored alerts based on your profile and never miss important updates or events. Download and explore My Augusta today.
And we're back. So dive right into this segment. I want to talk a little bit about just the digital world that we in and how that affects folks securing the job and just their presence online. Because you mentioned that when we first got started, Ingrid. So LinkedIn professional profiles are very important. So we can start there. Do you have any insights on just best practices for using LinkedIn or any other social network specifically for getting a job and networking?
I keep work, like LinkedIn, my professional pages are professional pages. My personal pages are personal pages, and never the two shall meet. Yes, never ever. Just because people are doing research, when you get an application or when you have gotten to a certain level of whatever, there are no secrets on the internet. And so you just need to be real mindful of what you're posting out there, even if it is not a job, if it is you are attempting to become a member of a sorority or a fraternity or some other professional organization. What you show of people, what people see in your digital footprint or fingerprint, if you will, is what they're going to take to be the truth.
Right.
I mean,
and the image that you would put on LinkedIn needs to just have a professional,
headshot.
And you can do that relatively easily. And we have a photo booth in Greenblatt now for professional headshots that's free to anyone. But it needs to be a professional headshot with a clean background, good lighting. And LinkedIn is something that we often will show students how to create their header and their profile and build that out. But what we fail to do is what do you do with it then? So a lot of students will go, I don't understand what the power of LinkedIn is. So obviously there's some job search tools and jobs that you can find through LinkedIn, but just starting to connect with different people. So if you follow certain companies that you're interested in, start finding alumni who are in the degree programs that you are in. It's easy, even if you don't know them, it's easy to connect with them because they're going to see, okay, they're from the same institution. And then start reading different articles of interest about the profession and start commenting on those or sharing those. And people will start to see you as an emerging professional. And I think that that's oftentimes students, we don't do a good job, I know, of helping students understand, okay, what do you do? Now you're out there, how do you link to other people? And those are just some basic ways to get started.
Yeah, because I often hear students say things like, well, I don't know what to post on there, or I don't know what content will look like because I am supposed to be professional, but I'm just a student. And I always tell them, just it's still okay to talk about your schoolwork, your coursework, things that you're experiencing at the university. Like, obviously, you don't necessarily have your big boy, big girl job yet, but it's okay to show them just what you're doing now in pursuit of,
Absolutely.
your career.
And ask questions, right? Show that you are willing to learn, because that's such a hireable trait of someone who's curious and willing to learn. So even if someone has a question about, I ran into this situation today, and handled it this way. Any thoughts on how I could have done it differently? And just be yourself, because even if you didn't handle it the way someone says, oh, but you could have done this and this, it's just showing that you're open to that thought process and getting feedback from others. So, the professional trends and issues and things are great, but you can also take the smallest of things and go, I really, benefited from learning about this in class today.
Absolutely.
Does anyone in my circle have some experience? I'd love to chat with you more about X to learn.
Right.
So
I am a complete and total word nerd. I will read anything. And so what I did when I first started researching jobs here, specifically in my office, I read white papers and other things, and you don't have to be afraid as long as you're crediting the person that wrote the papers. Right. You can stir up some interest and allow people to know how your brain is working by what you're posting out there. And someone may, as Julie said, read it and go, oh, this might be someone that I need to attach myself to, and just build your network that way.
Yeah, because I found this job on LinkedIn when I had my other job that was ending because it was a contract position. I just put that out there like, hey, I'm looking for a new role. Can anybody help me out? And then my former boss had reached out and said, hey, I saw your resume and stuff that you were looking out for a new role.
I love it.
This position is not open yet, but in a couple weeks, I want you to apply. And so that's how
That's awesome.
It kind of went down. So like literally as soon as I applied, we had a phone conversation and it just played out very smooth compared to that summer. I was just going through the job hunt, and y'all know how messy it can be.
Yeah. And lonely.
And discouraging it can feel. And then it was like, this was so smooth. Any other, like, I want to say, like, maybe horror stories that you may have seen with someone just have, like, a bad online presence?
Yes. Even when, and it goes back, I know I've said this 2 or 3 times, even if people are doing something as innocuous as just typing your name in, all of the things, everybody, there are 2 other Ingrid Tutts in the United States.
Okay.
One of them, both of them are not me, but one of them is an artist that lives in Texas, and the other one is a young woman that has had a real sketchy background. I make sure.
I'm gonna go look now.
Do it. Search yourself too. But I mean, when I say sketchy background, I don't mean that she has kidnapped anyone, but I would not hire her.
Okay.
So you have to be aware of your name your brand, all of those things have to be.
And how other
together.
people post pictures of you too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And I think, for a college student, you're going to have on your personal pages, not necessarily a professional LinkedIn, but on your personal pages, you'll have pictures of different things and interests, but make sure that it's not something, all of your pictures are, you're getting ready to hit the town, or you already have,
Or you already have it.
because then that can give the image of, okay, is this person going to come in with a, dress up to here and cut to here and all the things that you don't necessarily need to see that all the time, or a lot of slang, cursing, inappropriate, inflammatory types of language. It's just be mindful. Be mindful.
That's a good word.
Yeah, because I tell people, like, in today's age, they do think of Googling or searching for you on social media first. As soon as they get your application, get that resume, they read it. And I always encourage them, this is why your LinkedIn should probably be their first stop. So make sure that your LinkedIn looks good, because if it's great, then they may not want to look for you on the other things.
That's very true.
Right? So if your LinkedIn is hopefully good enough, that would be their only stop.
Right.
But if you are unsearchable, that can also raise a red flag, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want anyone to, even find me online. I want to be completely private on all of my accounts and have like a zero digital footprint. It's like, well, that might work backwards or not the way you intended, because then, at least my mind goes, well, what are you hiding? Like, why do you feel the need to be so secretive?
Right.
That can be a little sketchy too, right?
Yeah, if they can't find anything about you, or if everything that they find is, private and locked down, it's like, well, I can only imagine what type of stuff you're posting, even if it's, fairly innocent.
Right.
Yeah.
That, strict privacy and that lockdown kind of can go the opposite way.
People will rebel and go, that has nothing to do with my abilities on the job and things like that. But I also go, as a manager, I'm hiring someone and I'm trying to determine what their level of judgment is and discernment on the job. Because I can train a lot of things, but I can't necessarily train good judgment and discernment. And so if you are very loose with your social media imprint, then I'm going to make that assumption that I don't know that that's giving me the consistency that I need. And then that's an impression before I've even met you. Is it fair? Probably not. But is it realistic? Absolutely.
Your story sticks with you. That's something you need to remember, whether it's someone's perception of what your story actually is or what it truly is. Just have to pay attention to those things.
And transitioning a little bit to more like the event side of things. Ingrid, can you kind of walk us through how to navigate like a business dinner or a business lunch where you are going to be expected to be a little bit more formal? And as a college student, probably aren't a lot of opportunities where you have those situations, but once you do get into the professional world, there will be a time where you have to look the part.
Absolutely, and act the part.
And act the part.
Well, just as we've been saying with everything else, study a little bit. It may not seem like something that's important to do, but it really is. Know which fork you need to eat your salad with. Which fork? I wish I had brought props.
Next time.
Next time
you
we'll
eat
do that.
towards your plate.
You eat towards your plate, absolutely. And regardless of how many implements there are, you've said it. You eat towards your plate. So.
And love this, the B
Oh,
and the
bread,
D, the
yes,
bread
Yeah.
and drink. So I actually did this.
All the time.
I did this yesterday. And I sat down. I was at a conference. Sat down at a luncheon. Governor Kemp was the presenter, so a lot of people around. But they had crammed a ton of people on a round table. We've all been there. Everything is
nervous.
super compact. Well, I sat down and I was talking to the person to my right, and I looked over, and the person next to me had taken my bread plate.
Oh, wow.
Right? which is fine. But it threw me for a minute, and I'm going, wait, do I have this wrong? And I'm literally under the table
Doing bread and drink.
doing bread and drink, and I'm going, okay, this is I'm right. They just happen to take mine. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
move
okay.
on. But
I
you
mean,
know,
one
so
thing to kind of help when they do cram you in there like that, your plate is here, your knife is under here, the spoon is next to it, and the spoon up top for dessert if you're using it, if you have that. But your water glass, your wine glass, everything will be right over your knife, or it should be.
mm-hmm.
The tighter it is, the further that line goes back, so you know where your place is.
For me, because I'm left-handed, my mind always second and triple guesses itself because I'm like, wait. Then I have to try to rearrange stuff so I can, eat myself. I'm like, oh gosh. I'm super duper nervous to make a mistake at dinner time and make a fool of myself, but bread and dinner does help.
It does.
It's
It
a quick
bread
reminder.
and drink.
It does.
Bread and drink.
I said dinner.
Dinner. Yes, you did.
BD.
It's okay. BD. Yeah. And watching what other people around you who you value, you can't. We all at one point wanted to be like Martha Stewart in the kitchen, just doing fabulous things. Study, watch those people that are doing that are showing you that they are expert in this, and then do what they do until you are comfortable with it. Chew with your mouth closed, please.
Yeah.
Do not speak with your mouth closed. I mean, with your mouth full of food.
Yeah, I know it can be a trend for some people, like mukbangs and all of the taste testing of food, so the internet. I can't get with it, like the ASMR of it all.
Right.
It tears me to pieces. Can you just chop that onion silently, please? What are we doing here?
Slowly biting into the lettuce and just
Yes.
kind of playing around with. I can't do it.
I don't like it either.
It drives me insane. But switching gears a little bit, Ingrid, because your office gets to do something very special this year, which is working on the investiture ceremony for Dr. King. For those who are unfamiliar, can you explain what that is and why it's so important?
Sure, that is it's Dr. King's coming out, if you will. We are introducing him to state level, local level, our faculty and staff, and as a way for us to celebrate him and his leadership and just usher in the era of Dr. Russell King.
Yep.
Yeah,
His presidency.
His presidency.
It's a celebration.
It is indeed a celebration like no other. But it's a way for us for him to introduce himself on a wider scale to everyone in a way that's going to be greatly impactful and recorded from here on out.
So what type of work goes into it? Because obviously that's going to be a very big event.
Yes.
A lot of important people are going to be invited and expected to attend. Like, what type of work goes into making that happen?
Oh, Rashawn, that's a great question. Well, what you need to do first and foremost is find out where you're going to have it, because that is not going to be a small event. Augusta, we are limited here on large venue space, so we make sure that the Marriott Convention Center is available, because that is a large enough space for us to conduct the ceremony and then anything that comes behind it, receptions, those types of things. So we secure a date. Once we do that, we make sure that all of our leadership is available on that day. Everyone that would need to be on the stage or in the seats is available to be there. Work with communications and marketing on any digital pieces, those types of things that we need. We work with legal to make sure that contracts are signed. And then you have to meet also with your president and get to know who he or she is and find out likes and dislikes, because even though it's all pomp and circumstance, it's personal to that person. So you want to make sure that you also bring in some touches that's going to be remembered by them, so it's not just business. The day is long. It will take 2 or 3 days to build it,
Oh, wow.
and then a couple of days to strike it. So it's a large process, and it takes many, many hands. Certainly not just me, not just the people that are in our office. There are only 6 of us, but the committee, again, communications and marketing, Tim Johnson, and that whole crew.
technology piece.
Technology piece of that is huge. That is not my ministry. I can't do any of that. So we have to form a great committee and keep everybody, let people work to their strengths in order to make the common goal work.
I love that. I'm excited to hopefully be in attendance.
Yes.
To see that, because I remember Dr. Keel's investiture ceremony, because at that point I was just elected as SHA president
Oh,
of
wow.
the university, so I was super excited. I was like, I get to meet our new university president, so I'm excited for Dr. King's ceremony as well. And Julie, you guys also have a really big event in March. Do you mind talking about the Jaguar Job Fair?
Sure. We've got our Jaguar Job Fair on March 21st, and that is our annual career fair for the campus. So we'll have about 100 employers at the Chris Berry Fieldhouse from 11 to 2. All different majors. We don't have the MD and DMD students because we know where they're going. But we do have all the other disciplines reflected, and it's a great way to get the industries, because even if it's a healthcare company, they're not just hiring nurses and respiratory therapists, they're hiring accountants, they're hiring IT personnel. So and it's open to our alumni as well. So
nice.
It's a great event for any job seeker, really, just to connect with our employers.
And it's a well-attended event as well for students, but also for the employers.
Yes, and it's networking, so oftentimes you create that first impression, you get that connection. You might not walk away with an immediate job, but you've got someone, and in this digital age, that's a great thing. I think you've got someone behind the website that you can connect with, and that's really important. And I think I always encourage people to make connections where they can like that, because even if you apply through a website, having someone on the other side that you can say, I just applied for this position. Right. I would really appreciate if you would say, put in a good word for me with that person's manager if you feel comfortable. But it's just helpful, because things can go wrong with technology, right?
Absolutely.
So the human connection cannot be underestimated.
Understood. And I am still someone who will write, get a card and write it. It was so nice to meet you this afternoon. Whatever you want, it is a good way to stand out. We recently interviewed for 2 positions in our office and have hired 2 great teammates. But one of the things that helped them stand out is that they immediately wrote a note.
Oh.
Or made a phone call. Thank you so much.
That follow-up.
They did indeed. Mm-hmm. They did indeed, and it works. It may seem to some people to be an antiquated practice, but people who are in positions to hire you, we could conceivably have 3 different generations working in the job market today. So all of us hold things differently and appropriate. What is most appropriate and impactful for me may not be for this person. However, if I'm the person doing the hiring, write the note.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to remember who you are if you do that.
Right.
Go ahead.
Generational impact. There's never been a time until now that we've had as many generations in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So that's very different in understanding what is professionalism, because what professionalism might be to me might be different to you. But there's going to be standard things, and that's where I almost say, when you start a job, I don't even call it a mentor, find your Sherpa that will literally guide you through some of the potential landmines of things, and for the different generations, and it's learning what is an email, and what is a phone call.
Should this happen
at
all?
We have just within our division multiple generations, and we have debates all the time because this campus loves Microsoft Teams, right? So please don't, for me, a little old school, don't put critical documents and critical things to me in a Teams chat. That's an email. That's not Teams. It's more steps for me to get it out of Teams, so I don't like that. but also it's not in my inbox to constantly be able to reference or search like that. So I'm all about a meeting where people are putting links and referencing things, but if it's outside of that, then, and that's not something that people understand, and so I just hear a lot of colleagues I get fatigued with how younger generations are using the Slack channel or whatever channel you might be using for different ways of engaging. So emails too. At any organization, you're going to have those emails. I call them Christmas tree emails, but where it's just lit up with all the people copied on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I have a rule of 3, and this is just my own rule. But if something comes to me and I respond, they come back, I clarify something. If it's coming back again, people need to shave off of that email, and that's picking up the phone or narrowing it down. So I'm not fatiguing other people who just are in a need to know versus clarifying.
And having to dig out of all of that.
Yes.
The one nugget that you need.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. What we do in our office, we do a tip of the month for our protocol team. And we just did the intergenerational communications a few months ago. And I used an example of the ellipse, dot, dot, dot. We see that, or people of my age see that as a continuation of thought. Some younger people see that as a passive-aggressive kind of, look at the nod of the head.
See, I would never think of it that way.
When I read that, when I was studying that, I just thought, surely this is not a thing. But when I asked about it, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a whole tip of the month around intergenerational conversations and what's appropriate for what generation and what may be perceived as a wrong to another. And we got lots of feedback about it, with people saying, I didn't think about that, but.
Yeah, if someone sent me that, I definitely think that they're trying to be sassy with me.
Mm-hmm.
Would you really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, okay.
And that's
I love
important.
It
right?
It is.
And I think that's where sometimes we forget about, you don't have to have tough conversations if you have candid conversations in a spirit of learning.
Yeah.
Right? So I think so many times we can annoy people and not even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And if people will just have the courtesy to go, this is what this makes me feel.
Yes.
I think it's important, and having that candor and that trust. Because I would never, it's the generational differences, and you would never want someone to feel that way, but it's just a very different reference. So there's a lot of ways that things can go wrong or sideways in the workplace right now with multiple generations, but at the same time, professionalism is having a sense of understanding and being able to frame questions and difficult conversations in a way that it's about learning.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it right every time.
No, and when someone is coming to you and they're having that candid conversation, try to, and I have to remember this too, try to kind of step back from yourself and listen to what it is they're actually saying to you. We're talking about appearance. You mentioned that earlier with the things and the things. That has become what success looks like according to social media and the things that young people are seeing and the things they're doing. Thank you, Beyonce and Jessica Simpson, for, platform shoes in the workplace and all of those things. Eyelashes, there's nothing wrong with eyelashes, nothing at all. But those things were intended for the stage, not the workplace. So people could tell your expression from afar. It's not necessary for us to be there if we are just walking in the grocery, walking into the library. So you have to remember those things too. And if someone comes up to you and taps you and tries to say it, I do it with our lumens. I remind them before they come to work an event, please leave your party shoes at home. It is going to go wrong for you if you're standing on your feet for 6 hours. Mm. Those are not comfortable shoes. And that has happened. We were working when the past president lived at Twin Gables. This young woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, Miss Ingrid." And I said, "Yes." Next time we'll bring some flats. Yeah, so.
Well, thank y'all so much for talking to me. I always get so like energized from hearing the perspectives from you guys to help our students in their career goals. For those watching, definitely check out Career Services. I hope you are staying tuned for our investiture ceremony for information to be revealed about that. So yeah, thanks y'all. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that episode because I really enjoyed talking to Julie and Ingrid. Learn something new every day about the little intro when you forget their names. I'm going to use that a couple of times. I can already tell. And I hope you guys, when the time is right, go to Dr. Keen's investiture ceremony. More information on that, like we talked about before. And if you like this episode, let us know. Like, subscribe, do all the things, talk to us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going and let me know if you guys have had any other awkward professional encounters like I shared some of mine. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Go Jags!